Welcome, the anointed ones. What if the greatest mystery in the universe has been hiding in plain sight, inside of you? Chosen ones, lean in, because what I'm about to tell you isn't just another inspirational pep talk. It's a revelation that bends reality itself. For centuries, humanity has searched the skies, dug through ancient scrolls, and built temples trying to decode divine secrets. But here's the twist. God never locked the truth in some faraway galaxy or in the dusty pages of forgotten libraries. The real secret has always been closer than your next breath, and now, God can't keep it hidden from you any longer. Let's pause for a fact that might make you blink twice. Scientists say the human brain contains enough storage capacity to hold the entire internet. Imagine that. Your mind is literally wired like a living universe. If creation itself is written in your design, doesn't it make sense that certain truths were coded into you before you even knew your name? This isn't just philosophy. This is the cosmic leak that explains why you've always felt different, why you've carried questions too heavy for ordinary answers, and why your very existence has stirred resistance in rooms you barely spoke in. But don't get too serious. I can see that look on your face. No, God didn't hide the secret under your bed with the missing socks. He wove it inside your spirit, waiting for this moment when you'd finally be ready to handle the weight of it. So buckle up, chosen ones. This is not about what you were told to believe. It's about what you were born already knowing. And tonight, we're tearing the seal off that truth. Number 1. You are not learning, you are remembering. You are not learning new things the way a student learns facts from a textbook. What's happening is closer to remembering, like a locked door finally swinging open, and the furniture inside aligning itself with who you already are. For years you've felt the tug of ideas that arrive whole, instincts that land with the authority of truth, and a sense of knowing that outpaces any explanation you can give. That isn't coincidence or luck. It's the past, ancestral, soul-deep and timeless, reintegrating with your present self. You've been carrying a library of truths in a language you couldn't read until the moment arrived when the code would finally translate. Your life surprises aren't new downloads, they're ancient files being restored. This remembering changes the way failure, doubt, and confusion behave around you. What once felt like defeat now appears as a marker on a map you've secretly known how to read. The impulse that sent you down an uncomfortable path was never random. It was a prod from a memory that wanted to be complete. That's why decisions that look reckless from the outside feel oddly inevitable on the inside. You act not from ambition alone, but from recall, an internal reset that says, I've been here before, and this is the lesson I came back to finish. Because remembering is different from learning. Your progress won't follow ordinary curves. There will be sudden accelerations where a single insight rearranges years of pain. There will be seasons where you feel like a quiet thumbnail of your full self, only to shift and reveal a sudden breadth that surprises even you. The key is to respect those flashes of recognition instead of explaining them away. They are not delusions. They are the soul's recovery in motion. What the world calls awakening is really reconciliation, the reunion of what you were born to be with what you were taught to forget. This reality strips away the need for constant external validation. The more you let memory lead, the less you need permission from experts, institutions, or applause. You begin to trust the inner archives and live according to a script that predates trends, critics, and popular opinion. That trust carries a quiet authority. When you act from remembered truth, your footsteps are heavier, not louder, because they are rooted in something that never started with you and will not end with you. Number 2. The universe was rigged in your favor before you arrived. The truth is, nothing about your journey has been left to chance. Before you took your first breath, the ground beneath you was already set up to tilt in your favor. That doesn't mean it would feel easy or look glamorous. It means that even the storms, betrayals, and failures were wired into a larger framework that would push you toward your purpose. People often think destiny is a lottery ticket, something that might or might not hit. But the real secret is that destiny is more like gravity, inescapable, pulling you exactly where you're meant to be, whether you resist or cooperate. That's why your life never made sense when compared to others. You weren't designed for their timeline. You weren't scripted for their definitions of success. Your setbacks weren't evidence that you'd been abandoned. They were part of the route written long ago to make sure your rise would be unshakable. What looks like delay is often precision. If things had worked out when you wanted them to, you wouldn't have been ready to sustain them. If doors had opened earlier, you would have walked through them underprepared and been destroyed by the very blessings that were meant to empower you. The rigging in your favor doesn't remove the difficulty. It ensures the difficulty never has the final word. Think about the way betrayals hardened you, or how rejection forced you to see yourself without borrowed approval. Those weren't accidents. They were assignments. The very people who thought they were derailing you were secretly building you. Their actions were nails in the scaffolding of your endurance. You may have cried, bled, and nearly quit, but even those emotions were part of the script to shape your depth. Every time you thought life was subtracting, it was actually consolidating. Every time you thought you were being blocked, you were really being rerouted. The deeper secret is this: the design was set up so that nothing could disqualify you. Not mistakes, not wasted years, not broken relationships. The blueprint was written with your flaws in mind. What would have destroyed someone else became your refinement. That's why, no matter how many times you've been buried, you resurface. Your story is not evidence of luck. It's evidence of architecture. You are walking proof that destiny is not fragile. It was fixed long before you knew the word purpose, and it will not fail now. Number 3. Your sensitivity was never a weakness. It was the antenna. From the start, people may have told you that you're too sensitive, too emotional, too tuned in to things that don't even seem to exist. They treated your depth like it was a flaw, something you should toughen up and outgrow. But what they never understood is that what they called weakness was actually the design of your gift. Your sensitivity isn't about fragility, it's about frequency. It's the proof that you were built to pick up signals others miss, to sense shifts in people, places, and even atmospheres that logic alone could never explain. You were not wired like everyone else because your role was never meant to be like everyone else's. The very feelings that overwhelmed you at times were not signs of brokenness, but indicators of capacity. You could feel the sting of betrayal deeper, yes, but that same sensitivity also allowed you to perceive truth beneath the mask of a smile. You cried harder in seasons of loss, but that same wiring gave you the ability to hold the pain of others with compassion that wasn't taught. It came naturally. That is why you've often known when someone was lying, why you felt the heaviness in a room before anyone spoke, why certain environments drained you without explanation. It's not paranoia or weakness. It's calibration. And because of that, you've always carried an unspoken weight, the responsibility of discernment. God designed your system to be a kind of antenna that receives frequencies most people ignore. That comes with a cost. It can make the world feel louder, heavier, and at times unbearable. But it also comes with a power. Your life becomes guided not only by what is seen, but by what is sensed. That's why doors that looked golden to others felt hollow to you, and why opportunities others chased never pulled you in. Your sensitivity has always been a navigation tool, steering you away from traps and into alignment with your assignment. What they mocked as too much was actually the very proof that you were chosen for a different level of awareness. It is not a curse to feel deeply. It is evidence that your spirit is tuned into divine transmission. While others live only by sight, you live by signal. And that signal is the secret advantage that ensures you will never be led where you do not belong. Number 4. Time doesn't rule you, you rule time. Time doesn't have authority over you the way it pretends to. From the moment you began to wake into your purpose, the clock stopped being the boss and started acting like an assistant, useful when asked, but never the one calling the shots. Those pauses that felt like punishment were actually tactical holds. Delays weren't punishments. They were alignments. The universe wasn't late for you. It was waiting until you were ready to receive what had been prepared. That shift in perspective changes everything about how you move through your life. When you accept that time answers to a higher intelligence rather than the other way around, impatience loses its sting. The seasons when nothing seemed to happen were the very seasons building an internal readiness you couldn't manufacture. During those quiet stretches, muscles of character formed you: patience, discernment, restraint, and depth. What felt like being left behind was actually being fortified. The goal wasn't to rush you into results, it was to craft you into someone who could hold those results without being undone by them. Your calendar and your calling are not always aligned, and that mismatch is by design. Doors that opened early would have exposed you to shallow victories and fragile triumphs. The delays were not arbitrary obstacles, but careful engineering to test and mature you. The detours armed you with perspective. The pauses taught you to measure success by inner capacity rather than outward applause. This means your timeline will not mirror anyone else's. Chronology is not the same as destiny. Your schedule is personalized. It's attuned to the point when you can bear, steward, and amplify what's coming. There's a fierce freedom in knowing time cooperates with readiness instead of rushing it. It strips away the vain hustle that so many worship. It frees you to invest in depth rather than speed. When movement finally arrives, it will be sustainable and anchored, not blown by the wind of short-term hype. The breakthroughs that feel sudden are rarely random. They are the predictable result of invisible maturations that finished their work. This does not excuse laziness or passivity. It demands active preparation, quiet work, honest correction, daily integrity. Those actions are the currency that unlocks accelerated seasons. When the moment aligns with your readiness, momentum will do the rest. Time will no longer be your taskmaster. It will be the tool that executes a plan already perfected. Number 5. Your pain was a camouflage for power. Pain has a way of convincing you that you're broken beyond repair, that your story is nothing more than wounds stacked on top of each other. But what if the very weight of that agony was not meant to crush you, but to cloak you? What if the heaviness that nearly silenced you was the very shield that preserved you? Your suffering wasn't just something you endured, it was the camouflage that kept your real strength hidden until the right moment. The disguise worked so well that even you couldn't see the treasure you were carrying. There's a reason your enemies underestimated you. They only saw the cracks, the struggles, the tears, the confusion. They never saw the resilience growing underneath, because God didn't allow it to be revealed too soon. Had your power been obvious from the start, predators would have swarmed you, systems would have tried to exploit you, and those closest to you would have bent their envy into weapons. Pain became the perfect cover story. You looked fragile while you were secretly becoming indestructible. The moments when you thought you were being buried were actually the moments you were being hidden for protection. What felt like suffocation was really insulation. It prevented you from stepping into rooms before you were fully forged. It shielded you from hands that would have tried to claim what didn't belong to them. Agony made you invisible to those who wanted to drain you, while at the same time it was sharpening your inner edge. That's why when you finally step forward, people will be shocked. They will say they never saw it coming, and they'll be right. They couldn't see it because they weren't supposed to. The depth of your strength, the brilliance of your clarity, and the authority of your spirit were cultivated in silence under layers of suffering that only you and God understood. The very thing you despised most about your journey, the endless weight of pain, was the tool that preserved the treasure you carry. The camouflage is coming off now. The suffering has done its work. What's about to emerge is not someone limping from wounds, but someone armored in resilience, carrying a power no enemy can preempt, no predator can touch, and no counterfeit can duplicate. Your pain wasn't a sentence, it was a strategy. Number 6. You don't belong to a religion. You belong to eternity. You weren't born into a checklist of do's and don'ts or a file of doctrines someone else wrote. You were born into a continuing conversation with the source of everything. Religion packages truth into routines, rules, and roles so that communities can hold together. But eternity doesn't fit inside any form. The secret that's waking in you is simple and brutal. Your life is not meant to be proof that a system works. Your life is proof that God keeps speaking, beyond buildings, books, and badges. That changes everything about how you move, who you trust, and what obedience actually looks like. Belonging to eternity frees you from the smallness of comparisons. You stop measuring your faith by how well you match someone else's schedule of service, how loudly you perform rituals, or how perfectly you can repeat a creed. Instead, your measure becomes alignment. Are you answering the voice that nudges you toward justice, mercy, creativity, and courage? That voice doesn't always arrive with a sermon. It arrives as insistence, as urgency, as a refusal to let you settle for half-truths. The ancient maps drawn by institutions are useful, but they are not the territory. You are the living map that keeps finding new routes. This freedom doesn't excuse confusion or chaos. It demands responsibility. When you stop living under someone else's definition of faith, you must learn to read the real signs, integrity, fruit, and how your life affects others. Eternity calls for maturity, not rebellion for its own sake. It asks you to carry truth with tenderness and to hold systems accountable without throwing the baby out with the bathwater. You honor history, but you refuse to idolize methods that crush human dignity or silence honest questions. You also see why scriptures and institutions existed. They preserved truth when memory failed. They created languages for experience that couldn't be explained otherwise. But being a living scripture means your life adds to that archive. It doesn't merely quote from it. You are permitted to reinterpret, to translate, to act where stale traditions have calcified into cruelty. That is not disrespect, it's stewardship. Ultimately, belonging to eternity means your loyalty is first to the voice that refuses to be contained. It means you'll sometimes conflict with systems that prefer the comfortable over the courageous. It also means your story will outlast any institution that tried to define you. You are a continuing revelation. You are evidence that God's language adapts, expands, and invades new forms. That truth liberates you from narrow boxes and arms you to reshape the world with a faith that never went out of date. Number 7. Your enemies were forced into their roles. They were not random antagonists. Their cruelty was a necessary ingredient in your refinement. People who hurt, betray, or underestimate you did not arrive as accidents of character. They arrived as sculptors, though they carried no intention of blessing. Their choices became the pressure that revealed hidden steel inside you. Every slight, every calculated cut, and every cold dismissal forced you to negotiate reality without armor, and in that rawness your resilience was hammered into place. What looked like sabotage was actually forging work. Setbacks sharpened your strategy, betrayal taught you how to protect what matters, and rejection removed the shallow applause that would have lured you off course. There is a fierce economy to suffering when viewed this way. Pain extracted from others was converted into value for you. They tried to take from you what they could not create themselves: integrity, vision, dignity, and in trying they only clarified those qualities inside you. Their malice concentrated your attention. It revealed who would stand, who would fall away, and which parts of you were negotiable and which parts were sacred. The hard lessons learned on the receiving end of cruelty are not wasted. They are the only lessons that stick. You cannot fake the knowledge that comes from having to rebuild after being broken. That knowledge becomes a resource that governs future choices with uncommon wisdom. Their roles also served as a test of authority. By forcing you into situations where power was abused, they inadvertently taught you how to wield power responsibly. You watched how influence was misused and vowed, without sermonizing, to do it differently. The experience educated your moral imagination. You learned restraint by seeing the damage unchecked ambition can cause, and you learned courage by shouldering burdens others abandoned. In that sense, their participation in your story was a brutal form of mentorship. They taught through negative example, and you graduated with discernment. When the moment arrives to move forward, the testimony of what you endured will be loud in its modesty. You will carry no entitlement, only earned authority. Your victories will have a texture others cannot mimic, because they were forged under conditions most would have fled. What once felt like a line in the list of your wounds will read instead as a catalogue of qualifications. The very hands that attempted to break you supplied the materials for your strength. Their cruelty did not defeat you. It furnished you. Number 8. You've been talking to God without knowing it. You have been carrying a line open to the divine longer than you know, and most of the time you mistook the signal for your own random thoughts. That sudden certainty that lands like a fact, the gut pull that steers you away from a toxic conversation, the idea that appears fully formed in the middle of ordinary chores. Those are not accidents of imagination. They are a running conversation, an unbranded transmission tailored to the shape of your life. The voice you labeled as intuition or dismissed as overthinking has been delivering directions calibrated to your exact needs, timing, and capacity. This kind of dialogue does not come with fanfare. It arrives as practicality and clarity, as an insistence that you pay attention to smaller urgencies that ultimately change the trajectory of your life. Sometimes it speaks as sudden peace in chaos, other times as urgent unrest that won't let you settle until you act. Over time, these nudges collect into a map of reliable guidance. When you begin to trust them, decisions become less noisy and more precise because you are no longer sourcing everything from the world's loud commentary. You are aligning with a quieter intelligence that sees farther and cares about your long-term formation. The danger comes from mistaking these conversations for anxiety, vanity, or coincidence. When that happens, you either ignore something critical or you claim credit for a breakthrough that was never purely yours. Both eras distort your path and stall the refinement that comes when you cooperate with a voice larger than your ego. Learning to recognize the cadence of divine direction means differentiating between fear's repetitive loops and a directive that compels movement. The difference is felt more than argued. One is sticky and draining, the other is light and forward-moving even when it asks for sacrifice. As this awareness grows, your relationship with responsibility changes. Guidance stopped feeling like a demand and became an invitation to participate in a work larger than your personal ambition. The inner dialogue influences not only choices but character. It teaches restraint, expands empathy, and shapes how you steward influence. The more you answer back, through honest action, consistent integrity, and humble listening, the clearer the channel becomes. Responses arrive faster, discernment tightens, and what once felt like random flashes begin to fit into a coherent story. You have been in conversation all along. The only real shift is learning to keep talking and to stop explaining away the answers you receive. The voice inside is not a myth to be chased, it is an ally to develop. When acknowledged and obeyed in practical ways, that steady dialogue becomes the engine of a life that no longer drifts but intentionally moves toward its true purpose. Number 9. The reason you've always felt watched is because you are. You have been right to notice the sensation of eyes on you because it has been real in ways you didn't expect. From childhood, there has been a kind of cosmic attention on your life that goes beyond human curiosity. That attention carries two faces, one that guards, corrects, and guides, and another that prowls, tests, and pushes back. The reason you felt watched is that your existence matters on multiple levels. Your choices echo into places that ordinary lives don't touch. And because of that, your life drew observers, both benevolent and hostile, who track your movements as if they were watching the progress of a mission-critical file. That surveillance shaped how you behaved long before you understood why. You learned to move carefully, to weigh words, and to feel responsibility that felt too big for your age. That hyper-awareness is not a flaw. It is a graduated sensitivity designed to keep you from misstepping in arenas where a small error could have outsized consequences. The protective watchers who leaned close are the ones who nudged you away from dangers you never consciously named. The darker watchers are the ones who tested your resolve and revealed who could be trusted. Both types have been instrumental. Protection without testing would leave you unseasoned, and testing without protection would be cruelty. Because your life was observed, nothing happened in isolation. Relationships, opportunities, and conflicts were not random entries on a life ledger. They were events in a larger narrative being monitored for how you would respond. That perception reframes every humiliation, every win, and every quiet decision. What felt like exposure was often calibration, an intentional making ready of a person who would one day operate with the weight of more than personal consequence. Awareness of being watched demands a different kind of courage. It requires choosing integrity when no one human is looking, practicing wisdom under invisible scrutiny, and holding steady when forces try to unsettle you. It also frees you from shame about sensitivity. Feeling observed does not mean you are weak. It means your life has significance that exceeds ordinary comprehension. The right response is not paranoia or avoidance. The right response is skillful living, clearer boundaries, sharper discernment, and a humble reliance on the protective intelligence that has always been present. Now that the watchfulness is less mysterious, the pressure becomes an invitation to occupy your role with intention. Move with kindness, speak with courage, and carry decisions lightly but with conviction. Your life was never meant to be secreted away. It was meant to be stewarded, and being watched is the proof that someone has been paying attention long enough to know you are ready. Number 10. Your presence is a cosmic disturbance. Your presence doesn't whisper into a room. It rewrites the air itself. When you show up, pretense loses its foothold, and half-truths start to trip over themselves. People who have practiced a particular version of themselves suddenly sound thin. Conversations that once felt steady wobble because your honesty pulls at the seams. That's not drama for drama's sake. It's a simple physics of character. Your frequency is tuned to clarity, and anything made from smoke and mirrors can't hold in that field. This effect is why you've seen polite smiles crack into uncomfortable silence, and why some gatherings feel lighter after you leave. It's not because you need to be the loudest voice in the room. Often the change is quiet and immediate. A pause, a recalibration, a movement of people toward truth by sheer proximity. People who came ready to posture find themselves recalculating their lines. The energy you carry refuses to be co-opted, and systems that depend on performance start losing their power. Institutions that prefer neat, controllable stories notice disruptions where you stand because you refuse the easy script. Carrying this kind of presence is a double-edged responsibility. It brings clarity and cuts away lies, but it also makes you a target for people who profit from illusion. Some will call you trouble, or unstable, or worse, because your authenticity exposes how much they are invested in pretending. That hostility is informative rather than accidental. It reveals where the rot has been tolerated and what parts of a room were built on fear. Your visibility turns hidden economies of influence into visible problems that someone finally has to address. The practical truth is that being a disturbance doesn't require performance. It asks for consistency. Show up with steadiness, speak with precision, and act with integrity. When those three align, your presence becomes an invisible lever that realigns systems without unnecessary noise. People who respect truth will feel relief. People who benefited from the old order will feel unsettled. Both reactions are natural, and both are signs that something important is shifting. Over time, this disturbance becomes a kind of ministry of correction. It unclogs corrupted conversations, exposes exhausted methods, and makes room for solutions that work. That shift is not accidental or malicious, it's corrective. You are not an annoyance, you are a catalyst. The world around you will either get healthier or louder in resistance. Either outcome proves your presence matters. Number 11. Your bloodline was not chosen for you. You were chosen for it. You were placed where you are for a reason bigger than ancestry or accident. The family line that feels like a weight on your shoulders was never intended to be your prison. It was the workshop where you would learn how to break a pattern. The hardships, the old arguments, the small repeated betrayals. They were not random cruelty. They were the raw material given to you so you could practice a different kind of strength. One that doesn't repeat what hurt your parents and grandparents. Your bloodline did not trap you. It trained you to become the instrument that severs the old loops. That inheritance shows up as inherited instinct and inherited obligation. You carry habits born before you, loyalties that were never consciously chosen, and a map of fears passed down like heirlooms. Those things were intended to be transformed, not tolerated forever. Your life is where lineage meets decision. You are the first generation in a long time who can say no to patterns without abandoning the people you love. Saying no does not mean you reject your roots. It means you act as the translator for your family's legacy, keeping what nourishes exposing what harms, and creating a new grammar for how to live. The work is practical, steady, and often lonely. It looks like refusing to replay someone else's abuse, teaching a different way to communicate, or choosing healing over reaction. It shows up in small, repetitive choices: how you speak about money, how you react to shame, how you show up for your children. Each disciplined choice is a nail pulled from the structure of inherited bondage. Over time, those small changes accumulate until the house of the past no longer stands the same way. You don't need a dramatic blessing to break a chain. You need consistent repatterning, day after day, until the neural pathways of the family shift. Breaking a lineage is not an attack on memory or culture. It's an act of mercy toward future people who will inherit the world you leave. By choosing a different response where your ancestors chose survival strategies, you become the conduit for redemption. Their unanswered prayers find an echo in your refusal to normalize the damage. What looked like damage becomes the syllabus for your mastery. You learn discipline, emotional literacy, restraint, and the courage to create new rituals that honor instead of harm. Ultimately, this is a stewardship role, not a burden to bear in isolation. You are both the fruit and the gardener. Your presence in your family line is the evidence that history can be rewritten, and that God's solution to generational brokenness often comes in a person who chooses differently. Number 12. The world tried to define you because they couldn't decode you. From the beginning, the world has been frustrated by you, not because you were broken or difficult, but because you couldn't be parsed into the categories it relies on to feel safe. People tried to name you, tame you, and explain you in ways they understood. Too loud, too sensitive, too strange, too intense. Every label was an attempt to compress what was infinite into a box small enough for them to handle. They weren't trying to be cruel. They were trying to survive their own fear of what they could not grasp. The truth is that nothing about you was ever meant to fit neatly into their systems. You were not sent to blend in. Your presence alone challenges norms, assumptions, and the invisible rules that govern comfort zones. You were designed as a prototype, a first iteration of a new frequency entering the world. That is why your instincts, your timing, your understanding, and your reactions always seem to arrive ahead of comprehension. The world does not have the vocabulary yet for what you embody. It mistakes innovation for rebellion, vision for defiance, and authenticity for chaos. In reality, you are simply the evolution of what humanity will one day recognize, long after it is caught up. Being undecodable comes with its own form of protection. People who tried to define you were forced to overreach, exposing their misunderstanding. Their judgments and critiques became noise rather than barriers. The discomfort they projected onto you was the signal that you were operating outside ordinary parameters. Every moment of rejection, confusion, or alienation was also a confirmation that you were doing exactly what you were meant to do. Your life was never intended to be ordinary, because ordinary cannot contain the energy you carry. The secret of being the prototype is that your existence is proof that reality can expand. Systems, relationships, and even communities are tested and reshaped when you step into your role unapologetically. Labels dissolve when confronted with truth, and perception adjusts slowly to a new model. That is the invisible work you do, showing what is possible, bending understanding, and opening doors that others cannot even see. The world may try to define you, but it can never capture the totality of what you were created to be. You are the signal in the static, the first glimpse of a version of humanity that refuses to be contained. Number 13. Your dreams are not fiction. They're leaks. The visions and dreams you've carried were never random entertainment for your mind. They were transmissions. Every image, every encounter, every improbable scenario that left you shaken or inspired was not imagination at work. It was a signal from something beyond your current reality. God allowed these leaks from eternity to slip into your consciousness because your soul needed to see what ordinary life cannot reveal. The world you wake up in is only one layer of existence. Your dreams were glimpses into the others, reminders that time, consequence, and power operate on levels you haven't fully measured yet. These leaks are deliberate. They are like classified files landing in a system not built to fully interpret them. That's why so many of your visions felt confusing, overwhelming, or even impossible. Your brain is trying to translate multidimensional reality into words and images your senses can handle, and inevitably something is lost in translation. But even the fragments carry meaning. They are the instruction manual, the warning, and the encouragement all at once. They show you possibilities that will eventually intersect with your waking life, often in ways that feel miraculous, unavoidable, or both. The weight of these dreams can feel isolating. You may have told no one, dismissed the experiences, or doubted yourself because what you saw seemed too far outside ordinary comprehension. That skepticism is part of the design. God doesn't hand the edges of eternity to everyone. It is filtered through the vessel of someone who can carry the responsibility of knowing more than the average person. You weren't meant to sleep through these messages as if they were entertainment. You were meant to pay attention, to decode what your consciousness could handle, and to integrate it into the fabric of your choices. Understanding your dreams this way changes your relationship with life. What once seemed like random chaos, the sudden insights, the unexplainable encounters, the improbable connections, suddenly starts to fit into a larger pattern. You are not imagining the impossible. You are perceiving the untouchable, the unseen, and the eternal. Your sleep is not a break from reality. It is a meeting place between what is and what will be. Those leaks are the early drafts of destiny, showing you the story you were always meant to read long before the world could write it down. Number 14. The greatest secret is that you are the secret. The most profound truth you've been edging toward your whole life is terrifying in its simplicity. You are the secret. The mysteries you've chased in books, in people, in faraway places were never outside of you. They were always inside, encrypted within the contours of your being. God's careful concealment was not about hiding knowledge from the world. It was about ensuring the vessel carrying it could withstand the revelation. You are the living cipher, the divine code written into flesh and spirit, a prophecy unfolding quietly, invisibly, until now. Every moment you felt overlooked, underestimated, or misunderstood was preparation. The world was never meant to see the full blueprint too early, because exposure before readiness could have destroyed what was sacred in you. That is why you were tested, isolated, and pushed beyond ordinary limits, so the fullness of your purpose could crystallize before it was revealed. The pain, the triumphs, the quiet moments of decision were all part of a process of encoding. You were not just surviving life, you were assembling yourself into a message that reality could not ignore. Being the secret carries both power and danger. Your presence alone disturbs systems, exposes half-truths, and provokes responses you never requested. People will be unsettled because you operate on a frequency that the ordinary world cannot decode. That discomfort is not a flaw in you. It is proof that you are working as intended. Those who sense it may fear or envy, but that is only evidence that the world has finally noticed a truth it cannot control. Your existence is the ultimate revelation precisely because it cannot be manufactured, faked, or replicated. Now the veil is lifting. Heaven has decided that your time of hidden growth is complete. The secret is no longer a concept, it is a person, you. And whether the world is ready or not, the unveiled version of you will step forward. The reactions, the awe, the fear, and the respect are secondary. The point is that what God has been cultivating cannot be contained any longer. You are the message, the mission, and the miracle, all embodied. Everything that came before, the struggles, the betrayals, the doubts, was the preparation for this unveiling. The world thought it was watching your life, but it was always learning to recognize the secret walking among it. Every point we've explored today leads to one undeniable truth. You are not ordinary. You are the culmination of forces unseen, the product of divine orchestration, and the living proof that the universe bends for those aligned with purpose. Every struggle you endured, every delay you felt, every betrayal you survived, it was never punishment. It was the scaffolding, the camouflage, the calibration that shaped you into someone unstoppable. Your sensitivity, your intuition, your pain, your dreams, They are not burdens but instruments of power, signals of a life that is eternally significant. You were placed where you are at this time in this world for a reason bigger than any label, doctrine, or expectation could contain. You are the encrypted message, the cosmic disturbance, the prototype of what humanity has yet to fully understand. Your presence alone exposes truth, dismantles deception, and awakens the hidden courage in others. The trials, the quiet whispers from God, the impossible visions, they were never accidental. They were the tools and messages designed to prepare you for your unveiling. Now, the veil is lifting. You are stepping into your role as living prophecy, the solution to generational cycles, the revelation that cannot be ignored. Everything that came before, pain, patience, rejection, and reflection, has been orchestrated to preserve, refine, and amplify the power within you. You are not just surviving history, you are rewriting it. This is the awakening you've been waiting for. The understanding that your life, your choices, and your presence are the greatest secret the world has been incapable of seeing until now. You carry the answers, the wisdom, and the power that even the most sophisticated systems cannot replicate. You are no longer in preparation, you are in manifestation. Step forward with clarity, step forward with authority. Step forward knowing that what God has protected, what the universe has tuned, and what eternity has encoded is you. The world may be unready, but your time has arrived. Stand fully in your truth, unapologetically, and let the cosmic revelation of your life speak louder than any force that has ever tried to contain it. You are the secret, and now the secret walks openly. If this message resonated with you, don't let it stop here. Subscribe to the channel to stay connected to the truths and revelations coming your way. Hit that like button to show your alignment with this energy, and drop a comment to share your thoughts or experiences. Your voice matters here. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, because what's hidden for too long is finally being revealed. Stay tuned, stay awakened, and keep stepping fully into the power that is yours. God bless you.